morning, students, and welcome you for this class on the perspective of public administration's paper. Myself, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Aggarwal, I welcome you for this teaching learning live session. Uh, Today I'm going to talk on scientific management theory. It is in continuation of my earlier talk on the conceptual perceptions of the public administrations. So basically, scientific management theory, the concepts in theoretical formulation, it is being formulated by F.W. Taylor, and accordingly, we know him as a father of scientific management theory. He actually not only formulated this idea of theorizations, but he uses such kind of modern techniques and approaches to apply it in formal organizational setup in management perspective. So accordingly, he has developed a such kind of systematic formulations of theorizations in organizations, and he first advocated this kind of scientific methods in the field of industrial work, processes, and management. What is the purpose behind this is to promote efficiency and economy in this industrial provisions. Actually, none of his predecessors used this kind of such kind of analytical framework of work methods, and accordingly what he has done with his exposures and while working as a 26 year as a career, starting from a mechanist to engineer, he has given the best management which is true science formulations, and he said that it is applicable to even all kinds of human activities as well. So actually what happened during the later half of 19th century, when we saw the industrial revolution, during those days has reached to the maturity level, and due to rapid industrializations and business and industry activities, if various kinds of problems in planning and management and productions arrived. And to solve that, he actually developed a such kind of work methods and tool procedures which were not earlier planned and efficient for that purposes. So actually earlier choice of work which is mainly left to the workers themselves, and that kind of things, they workers use such kind not such kinds of ad hoc mechanism in planning and framework that lead to inefficiency. And accordingly, we realized due to industrial revolution that we need to increase the productivities, and in a rational and more integrated and comprehensive approach needs to be taken care of to solve both the problem at the managerial level and problems at the workers level. And accordingly, what we saw that emerging of new managerial class during those rapid industrializations, and that managerial class actually faced with new kinds of problems which were not faced earlier. Accordingly, the what he they done during those practices of management became changed to problem solving, day-to-day problem solving, to the more all comprehensive long-term approach accordingly for raise the productions. And Taylor, given the scientific theorizations of this scientific management theory, the term which is being used by the Louis D. Brandeis first time, but he actually developed it as a conceptual framework of theorizations. And he formulated such kinds of principles, laws, which he said that it is universally applicable and to all kinds of organization, and that is the true science of things. And accordingly, what is the how scientific management theories concepts being formulated by the F.W. Taylor? Actually, during his career of 27 years, he has worked from right from the mechanist in a Midwell Steel Company based in Philadelphia in 1878 to he then again he rose to the rank of chief engineer over there only, and then to the general manager in a paper mill based in Maine. And later stage he established his own engineering consultant offices based in New York in 1893. And during those this 27 year has done lots of experiments, around 30,000 experiments, and he invested around 52 lakhs of rupees. And during those life career or working careers, he closely studied the behavior of the production's workers, and he understands that workers themselves deliberately do not do their most of the work. Generally, they only do only one third of work compared to their capacity. And not only that, he noticed also there is a procedural gap between the decisions which what is being taken care by the managements. They usually use the such kinds of methods which is not predominantly based on rule of law provisions and the scientific aspect. They usually use the methods of trial and error, and what they do usually is that their intuitions and their experiences only they use for to solve a problem. But that is not exactly the things to the best management in that context. So he realizes various kinds of these kinds of errors, and he also find that for the completion of that work, there is no clear divisions between managements and workers, and so due to that, there is also inefficient atmosphere not only in productions and working atmosphere as well. At the same time, he found that there is no incentive plans for the surplus aspects. So performance of workers needs to be improved by this provision. How later stage scientific management theory uh, concepts, which is being formulated by the F.W. Taylor, he narrated it in detail, and he also found that there is no systematic methods for either recruiting the worker, for improving them, for proper training, and there is no consultation based on their choice and their expertise also, it was found by the Taylor as well. And what happened actually during his career in 1886, he became a member of American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and there he saw in one of the annual conference, if Henry R. Downey has presented a paper, the engineer as an economist, and that paper actually he highlighted new philosophy of management as a science of management. He tried to develop such kinds of integrated provisions of management, he named as a science of management. But what is more important, we have to understand from here that this Taylor gathered his view and influenced by his ideas and tried to develop a kind of scientific management in detail. And his principles, what he culminated with this idea in 27 years of working experiences, he has written a four kinds of piece of paper in forms of article, and that all four article in culminations become a scientific management theory. What is more important that first paper is a piece rate system which he has written in 1895, and this is the one very important for the wage perspective which we see later. And second article which he has written as a soft management in 1903, and then he has written a one paper in 1906, that is a, that is a art of cutting metal. This art of cutting metal paper a kind of turning point for scientific management theory. And accordingly, and finally, in 1911, he has written a paper which we call the the principles of scientific management. All these four constitutes the principles of scientific management theory. And accordingly, what happened in all these four papers, you have to understand that a piece rate system which is being written in 1895, it is one very remarkable kind of study, particularly for the wage payments. And his observation is based on the number of important things. For determinations of rate, he made a kind of observation and survey and then analysis of work based on the time basis to decide the rate. The first aspects of you can understand a piece rate system and determination of rate is very important aspects. And then not only that, he also made a kind of things which we say the differential rate, and for particular piece of work, the unit of piece of work what will you do, accordingly you will be paid. And third important aspects which he has highlighted here in this paper is that paying the main, not a position. But what is more important that you have to pay according to the person, not according to the post. That is most important. So all these three aspects of which proved to be a new system of wage payments, kind of revolutionary provisions for so far as workers is concerned. Not only workers is concerned, later we'll see how it is bring efficiency and rise the productions for the management's points of view. Or if both managements and workers are happy with that, obviously you can understand what will happen. So this first important paper is important in that context. Then what is important for the second paper which he has written later stage in 1903, he discussed in that paper kind of workshop organization management in detail. But we say that the workshop or the workplace or organizational setup and from the management's points of view, he tried to develop a philosophy of management. What is philosophy of management? That you have to pay high salary, high wages, and you have to either shut down the less productive unit or to increase the efficiency. You have to give the high salary, and how to bring this efficiency and economy model with that also. That you have to understand. First aspect is to rise the salary, increase the salary, and so that the production will also increase. The second aspect he has done through his research that you have to apply a scientific method to solve all kinds of managerial problems. Through experimentation only he tried to develop these concepts. And not only that, in this paper also he has tried to develop the positive implications of these working conditions. And not only working conditions, appointment and posting of that workers also should be based on the scientific basis. That is more important, which is not being done earlier. What we do earlier level is ad hoc kind of planning. Even in recruitment selections, no choice and no ability provisions were there. So in this paper, yes, accordingly, he also highlighted that not only this with the recruitment thing, they have to be given a kind of formal training, and not only training, they have to nurture them, they have to guide them, they have to direct them. Why this guidance, directions, and nurturing thing is required to speed up the process, which is mean the objective what is being set up by the set up for the organization through standardized tools and instruments and proper use of material resources. We have to achieve those things. So for that matter, formal training, guidance, and directions is needed. And not only that, it also depends on the friendly cooperation between managers and workers. It should be also based on the scientific management with the trade unions and labor organization. No ad hoc mechanism, friendly cooperation. Also, again, you can understand it is beneficial for both of them. So, what is important that that earlier managements, the traditional managers, they are also more authoritarian in nature. So, new kinds of approach is being needs to be developed, which is being highlighted by the Taylor here. And then he says that detailed and comprehensive ideas of functions should be taken care of so that control and planning and organizational control can be done at proper level in a systematic manner. And for that, it is not done in an ad hoc manner. For that, he has formulated a kind of hypothesis, developed a hypothesis, and then accordingly he collected the facts, and based on that facts he tested what are the reliability of the data, and then not only tested that, then they verified again, and not only verified, with verification there is a classifications and tabulations of the fact before arriving at any conclusions, before forming any kinds of policy dynamics, rules and regulations. So why all these things are needed? All these are scientific in nature. Developing a hypothesis, then collecting the facts and testing and verifying them is all kind of thing which we say scientific, objective, and based on experimental methods. So day-to-day work is not affected, both for the workers and the management's angle. That is more important. So this for that later stage I will discuss that Taylor not only that this kind of four paper he has written, and not only all that, he says that the complete mental revolutions both for the managers and workers. Why mental revolutions? Why mental revolutions? Because managers should also have to create such kind of situations in the working atmosphere. They have to adopt these kinds of methodological framework in scientific selections and to solve these problems. So mental revolutions at the managerial level. Not only that, managers and workers also need to be honest in completions of their work. What is their work at their disposal? They have to accomplish that accordingly, and not only accomplish that job with a proper trust and honesty, and cooperation is also needed. All these things is needed for the increase of productivity and efficiency. That is more important. Otherwise, what is the situation? We saw usually there is a quarreling situations between managers and these workers due to different, there is strike and something like that. So this, to reduce this kind of things and to increase the productivity, objectives of the managers and worker is common in that perspective. And accordingly, if we move forward, during those days, we have seen in 1906, he had written a third important paper, which is important component of his scientific management theory, and this is being given while working at a Midwell Steel Company. He found that various kinds of defects in the functioning and provisions of the management's industrial things, that management has no clear understandings of their roles and responsibility, no clear-cut divisions of role and responsibility between workers and managements. So that is one defects he found, and not only that, there is effective standards of work he also visualized, and also apart from that, there is a number of other things in not proper design, and they no proper offer of incentivism, all these things also. And they usually, management usually use a scientific way of doing the things based on intuitions, hunch, and past experiences, and basically rule of thumbs, law apply, they usually apply. So all these things are not functional from the productive point of view, and there is also no such study is being earlier done, which is being done by the Taylor, that proper studies for division of work among the departments also. For that matter, he has suggested functional foremanship. Functional foremanship is very important. He categorically divided four kinds of activities for the manager and four kinds of activity for the executing department. How we'll see further in today's discussions only. Then Taylor, not only that, that kind of conflict which exists between managements and labor, and all these things, they need to resolve that problem by either persuasions or force. But these kinds of thing which is being highlighted by this Taylor is important. And for that matter, I told you that there is a series of experiments, around 30,000 experiments he has conducted during his 26, 27 year of careers, from mechanist to engineer to general manager. You can understand he has experimented with the machines, tools, speeds and metals and materials, and his experiment is based on both Midway Company and Bethlehem Steel Company, and where he developed a high-speed steel and revolutionized the art of cutting metal. And these aspects is very important, which is I telling you that it is based on experimentations, and so it initiates the background of the growth of American industry. Not only American industry, Russian or also otherwise various places we adopted this kinds of technique. And later, his studies or experimentation of modern motion and time studies also enlightened how workers handles the materials, machines, tools, and how it is being done in a coordinated manner as shop managements. And in development of his this kind of shop managements, he actually tried to know that under the controlled condition, how long man and machine would or should take to perform a given task. That is the basic purpose. And accordingly, he used the scientific fact-finding method to determine it empirically. What is being done earlier in traditionally, the right way of to perform tasks with the help of stopwatch. So that is more important, which may not be later criticize also the concept of stopwatch which is being used by the Taylor. But Taylor recognized the needs of this scientific method in such a manner that it important for right job considering the right for the right man, and it should be based on the potential and qualifications, and he wanted to effective supervision of worker under such a kind of working provisions, working condition, that workers should be placed at the right place. And so that is the it should be also not only at the right place, it should match to their abilities, and according to their choice it should be also there. So accordingly, what he Taylor has given the concepts of management to what is the for what it is the concept of management which is being given by the. And let me tell you here also that Taylor's concept of scientific management is not complete without the Henry Fayol's aspects of administrative management theorization, which we'll deal in the next week sessions. But today I'm still focusing on Taylor's aspects of scientific management, which I'm again telling you that it is not complete without the Fayol's contributions and other contribution which is being highlighted by other thinkers will discuss in detail in the next sessions. But this Taylor's concepts of management has to secure maximum prosperity for both for the employer and for the employee, and not only for employee for the consumer as well. So he wanted to that whatever the inherent conflict was there between the workers, employee, and consumer, it should be no longer should be there. And for that matter, it should be if the workplace or industry is highly productive, obviously it can be beneficial for all, both the consumers also, for managements also, for the workers also, and for that matters, it saves the higher wages to workers for greater profit as well for the management, and accordingly it paved the way for lower prices for the consumers. And so all these things, three things is beneficial for three angles, and accordingly Taylor observes that management earlier usually shift the burden of low production or whatever may be the things to the labor only, and they themselves keep only minor roles and responsibility. So he advised that management should take the responsibility of determining standard of planning and controlling and devising these kinds of scheme, and should take half of the work, if not complete half of the work, it should be taken care by the management, and rest half of the work be taken care by the workers. And for that matter, he developed a functional foremanship. We will discuss in detail today only. And then his last paper on principle of scientific management, which he had written in 1911. And this paper, if it includes all these above three paper, it culminated into formulation of scientific management theory. These kinds of things, which is for society prosperity, in collaborations between workers and managements, he applied such kinds of scientific methods, and for that matter, he has given the four basic principles of scientific management. And what that kind of four principles, that is the important aspects of scientific management theory. He given the first principle is that development of true science of work through standardizations of work method. Standardization of techniques and application of those techniques is important to develop a true science of management. So how it will see today. Second aspect is to scientific selections, and not only selections of workers, training them and progressive developments is also important aspect. How this aspect is being highlighted, we'll see again today. And then third principles of this scientific management theory has given it equal division of work and responsibility between management and worker. And for that matter, he has given the aspects of mental revolutions and functional foremanship. I'm telling you again and again. And then fourth and final principle under this provision is mutual collaborations of workers and management. And accordingly, we need to understand or examine these four principles premises. First principle, to development of true science of work through standardizations of work method. Why these kinds of principles? It is related to the scientific method of each work. We have to replace the ad hocism of selection of work procedure, which is being earlier left to the workers only. They usually use such kinds of method which are not experienced enough, they are not trained enough. So he actually develop a or to replace that kind of things with the proper method of scientific investigations and all these things. And so he wanted accordingly to investigate the kind of working situation in context of total quantum of work in a given time period, and they have wanted to fix daily task assignment so that worker can work in a planned way. Daily task is important and their monitoring and important. What is the important aspects of good management is to bring high productivity or lower the unit cost. And for that matter, if this is the goal, you have to pay the high wages. That is the argument of the tailor. And for output production's point of view, he says that under the desirable condition, workers should be given the piece of work, fixing daily tasks and assignments, and they can work in a planned way. If they work more or accordingly, they should be rewarded. And if they increase the production, then they should be rewarded. If they do not perform or underperform, the penalty provision should be also be there. He accordingly highlighted. This will obviously you can understand that this will increase the production and accordingly that is thing. And not only that, he enforced method of its standardizations and enforced provisions of working conditions. Work will become easier and faster, and all these things will helpful not only for the management, for workers also accordingly. So he also said that it is also necessary for workers, both workers and management, it is necessary to know what constitutes the fair day's work. Day's work for so that the unnecessary criticism should not be there. It saved the workers from the quarreling, it saved the workers from the unnecessary criticism from the employer, from the management, and for that it needs a scientific investigations of the large daily task which is being performed under the optimal conditions, and it should be workers should be qualified for that. And for that matter, we try to gather the traditional knowledge of worker, investigated them, tabulated them, classified them, and then formulated the rules accordingly. And that is the purpose. He by doing so, he said that this is the one best way of doing the job, which he said that it is universally applicable in all kind of circumstances, and accordingly it provided the provisions of more production, increase in productions, and accordingly worker receives high wages and is much larger profit will come to the management or industrial output point of view. Then second important principle is scientific selections, training and progressive developments of workers. This second principle related to you have to select a worker in such a way that proper mechanism you have to place them also accordingly, you have to give them scientific training, and their performance should be judged by through developed work, and their mental and intellectual and physical ability should be taken care of. And for that matter, I'm telling you the placement, selection of training of workers should be done accordingly. And this needs a kind of deliberate study of aptitude and natures and performance of worker. And accordingly, we are in a position at that time that to find out the possibility or limitations, one for future developments. And Taylor not only that find that every worker have potentiality to development, potentiality of work, and so worker must be systematically and thoroughly trained. For that purpose, we want to progressive development and accordingly training and reposing them a responsibility of day's work and economy. And it is also necessary both management has to take the responsibility to work, and not only that employees should also accept this kind of such methods of new environment, new provisions, so that they can work enthusiastically and willingly. It is important, it is the catchword. If unless you're willing to work, unless you enthusiasm to do the certain things under the certain provisions, you will not in a position to achieve the desired results. So this is the second aspect. Third aspect is equal divisions of work and responsibility between the management and workers. Why this third principle is important? Equal division of work and responsibility, for that matter, is functional foremanship. that he found there is a unhealthy trend between manager to place increasing burden on workers, and they retain only minor roles and responsibility, and most of the responsibility is being transferred to the workers. And accordingly, he suggested that half of the workers' work should be taken by the management. What kind of work? What kind of half of the work? He categorizes in two components. One aspects for the management, one aspects for the workers. One aspect is related with the management. He highlighted that management should functions for best suited things related with the planning, organizing, controlling, and determining the methods of work. So managements actually deal with the plan aspects and formulation and controlling such kind of thing to create a proper environment of work. And second aspect is related with another workers who related with the executions part only. Actually, what happened? This division of work creates between them understanding aspects of mutual dependence, and not only aspects of mutual dependence, understanding each other also. So positive atmosphere is being created due to this. And not only that, there is a provision we saw that there is an intimate cooperation and consultant between them. All these things, all these provisions, Taylor highlighted that it eliminate the kind of conflict and quarreling situations, and strike provisions were not there during those days. So that this third components of principles is important from the Taylor's point of view. Fourth important provisions is mutual collaborations of workers and managements. This principle is actually highlighted by the Taylor is to bring a mutual faith and trust. Why this mutual faith and trust? For the efficiency and productivity, by promoting a kind of healthy and congenial atmosphere in organization, he says that it is a joint responsibility. So mutual collaborations between both of them is important. And why this joint responsibility? For what purpose this is a mutual collaborations? Also for maximizing productive units. And accordingly, it will bring earning to both of them for workers and employee. And accordingly, this is the proper aspects of resolving the findings of science. That is the second aspect. And accordingly, due to this, Taylor said that worker do his job and ensure that there must be somebody to inspire the worker. This kind of motivational provisions, informal setup is required, which partly addressed by the Taylor, for which he is criticized later stage also for ignoring the human angle, but he considered the informal provisions of human aspects also, but not in totality. He believed that the workers are willing to cooperate with the management, but it is the management who has different kind of oppositions about the workers. And however, you have to understand that if you include all these four principles, these principles culminates into the principle of scientific management theory, into the Taylor. And none of this principle could be isolated for principle of scientific management. So, what is the philosophy behind these four principles? And under the four papers, if you include all these four papers, which culminates into the principle of scientific management theory, and the summarized as a this philosophy is summarized as a four important aspects, five important aspects. It is science, not the rule of thumb, which is being done earlier. It has to bring harmony, not discord. That is important. And cooperation, not individualism. That is important, which you have to understand. And maximum output in place of restricted output. That is the philosophy, and development in each greatest efficiency and prosperity. If why efficiency you can understand, why prosperity also you understand. And important to understand that with all these five important component of four kind of principal premises or four kinds of paper which is being written by the Taylor, we can understand that if we apply all these kinds of techniques, wastage of human and material resources can be greatly minimized. And if we utilize labor in such a manner, in efficient and friendly manner, it will bring a suitability and productions also. With all these kinds of standardizations of work procedure, with improving condition will also help in the productions. And not only that, labor will be greatly benefited with higher pay. They will be given better placement as well, and limiting their working hour as well. So what is the thing Max Taylor highlighted? To general improvement in the working condition. And scientific measurement movements also provided kind of provisions for effective guidelines to the management in developing a effective organization. He not only highlighted the provisions for workers, he highlighted the provisions for organizational management angle also. So five basic postulates for the management he has suggested. One is research, then standards, planning, controlling, and mutual collaborations. This is the crux of every successful management. It is being highlighted by the Taylor. And then later stage he has given the provisions of functional foremanship. Taylor actually wanted to bring efficiency and economy model, and for that matter, he divided the works. uh, and for that matter, he suggested eight narrowly specialized supervisor. Earlier, what happened that we get directions or we are subordinate under only one bosses. We get directions from the one bosses. So span of control or unity of command aspects you can understand here. But under this provision of functional foremanship, he highlighted eight narrowly specialized supervisors, and he divided works among the workers and also at the supervisory level, and four will be responsible for executions and four will be related to the planning. What are the four for the executions? For the workers provisions, the gang boss you want, repair boss is second, speed boss is third, and inspectors are the fourth. These four constitute the executional functional bosses for under the provision of functional foremanship. And under the provision of functional foremanship, for planning processes, the order of work and route clerk, the instructions card clerks, the time and cost clerk, and the shop disciplinaries is the four important aspects. And so these divisions actually Taylor wanted to bring a kind of functional dynamism. And accordingly, he said that this foreman can be trained quickly and specialization become very easy. And for with this kind of division of work between planning and executions, this kind of concept of staff and line aspects in under the provision of public administration and bring suitability in these provisions. So for that matter, he highlighted nine qualities should be there for foreman. What is the nine quality? They should have proper knowledge, special knowledge, technical knowledge apart from education. They have such kind of strength, and they have to use such kind of tax to accomplish their job. Or for that matter, energy level should be there. Grit, honesty, and judgment and good health is also important. All these nine important components he highlighted is for the foremanship. And apart from this functional foremanship, Taylor also developed some more mechanism to serve principle of scientific management. He has given number of things. I'm telling you that 26, 27 years during his career, 30,000 experiments and invested 52 lakh rupees. You can understand that various kinds of study he has undertaken with this experimentation to arrive this conclusion. So all these things are important, but he also had done time study aspects and to understand and implement the methods properly. He also tried to correlate how standardizations of tool and implements used in such a manner for movements of each work. Then desirability of planning is also important. He had execution principles of management he also pointed out. And then use of slide rule and similar time-saving implements uses for this aspect. And instructions cards for workers. Not only that, large bonus provisions is also taken care by him. For that matter, he has done a number of experiments. And I was telling you earlier that differential rate system kind of thing also will bring. He has done this kind of experiments separately also. And then he has classified the manufacturing products to implement the from the manufacturer angle, and he developed a routine system and modern cost system. He done all these kinds of experimentation, and accordingly he not only stopped here, he visualized all these aspects of moving forward as a mental revolutions. Accordingly, what is the mental revolutions? It is the workers and management have to duty towards the work, towards their fellow workers, towards all of their daily problems. And how this is possible? It is not possible through without mental revolution. What is mental revolution? It includes the demands and realization of fact that mutual interest is not antagonistic, but it is mutual prosperity is possible only through these kinds of mutual cooperation. That is the mental revolution. Without this kind of things on both sides, scientific measurement does not exist. That is the basic aspect of Taylor which you have to understand. And during those days, we can understand that the mental attitude of two sides under this scientific measurement theory is that both these parties should take their eyes on division of surplus as all important matter together, turn into attention of qualifying towards increasing size of surplus until the surplus become large, it is become unnecessary to quarrel over how it should be divided. So that is important. That kind of division of surplus accordingly is important. And not only that, also it also he realizes that the friendly cooperation and mutual helpness will make surplus so enormous that it is going to help, it is going to ample improvement for the wages and workers equally. It will beneficial both for the profit angle point of view of manufacturer and workers as well. So this kind of thing. But this kind of important theorization, which I call it as a kind of movements and offer resolving various kinds of industrial problems in organized labor provisions and problems of manager as well. It is being criticized on number of grounds, as I was telling you that it was the first time he tried to develop a scientific management theory which becomes the important kind of thing in industrial provisions, that he solved the various kinds of not only industrial problem, managers problem, and try to solve this labor angle also. But he various line of argument for criticism. Trade unions say that it destroying the aspects of trade unionism and collective bargaining aspects is also eroded by this. So this is first kind of things, and not only that, it bring unemployment also, continuous increase of unemployment due to this kind of standardized techniques and training and kind of thing. So these kinds of complaints was there, and in during those days, these complaints reached to the American Congress, and through this representative of American Congress, this went to the House, and House appointed a commission, a special commission in 1912 to investigate the aspects of terrorism. And that special committee had neither clearly either favors Taylor nor labor or nor management. But that kind of thing was there at that time. But at later stage, which I'm telling you about the use of stopwatch, in 1950, there is a provisions of amendment in Army Appropriation Acts forbidding the use of stopwatches or payment of premium or bonuses in Army arsenal. Due to different reasons, you can understand that here somewhat they succeed. So this is first kind of criticism. And second line of criticism is given by the number of investigations under the research provisions. First is Robert Hoxie. He's a professor in USA, and he's given a kind of commission's report on industrial relations. He criticized also scientific management theory, particularly Taylor's approach. If and he said that it deals with only mechanical aspects, not with the human aspects of the production. Human aspects is also important, which we see later how this Hilton Mayo Redlisberger team highlighted the human relations approach. We are going to cover in next coming weeks. But Professor Robert Hoxie highlighted that it is more mechanical and ignoring the aspects of human angle in productions. So these kinds of things is important, or he highlighted that Professor Hoxie highlighted that psychological and emotional problems of workers and is important. We have to take care of that. And not only that, it is being attacked by the managers also. So this is important line of criticism was there, and this kind of criticism is being given by the manager, that kind of manager who wanted to quick promotions or high managerial position without any merit. They oppose this taller stance or training experts and likewise do not appreciate these kinds of things, and then this kind of criticism was there. And he said that highly trained experts were unqualified to manage. So this kind of criticism was visible there. You can understand that. And number of other criticism apart from that is being given by the Oliver Sheldon, Mary Parker Follett, John Hilton Mayo, Peter Drucker, and others. They charge Taylor's scientific management theory as a impersonal in nature, and they under emphasize the human factor as well, and that criticize the series of experiments which is being done by the Taylor in industrial sociology and social psychology. They narrated that, importantly, Hawthorne experiments, which is given by the Alton Mayo in the field of industrial sociology and social psychology kind of thing, they highlighted the human relations and group dynamics of industrial who rejected the Taylorism. So, what is Hilton Mayo done? Hilton Mayo done a Hawthorne experiments, and where he investigated the structural arrangements of organization is important also. Structure is important for productivity, for efficiency in an organization. So human angle. And so it needs to study the emotional attitude of workers towards works and colleagues. And he said that that kind of theorizations of universal principle is not, it is a kind of proverb. It is not applicable in all kinds of human activities as well, which is being highlighted by the Taylor. So this Taylor philosophy of this men were lazy and tried to avoid the work has also been disputed by this Hilton Mayo. So this is the thing we have to understand that this Hilton Mayo highlighted the important sociological angle is important. And then not only that, there is a Brown's study. He said that work is an essential part of man's life, since it is an aspect of life which gives status and binds him to society. And accordingly, uh, Hawthorne experiment, which is being done from 1927 to 32 during the post-Cold War period, reaches to that group dynamics and human relation industries plays a establishing to a great extent. So accordingly, both these Brown's analysis and Hawthorne experiments bring a kind of things which say that psychological and emotional factor were no less important than economic. Not only economic factor, but psychological and emotional factor is also determining the organizational productivity and efficiency. So workers of behavior is dependable variables. So these aspects is taken should be taken care of. And not only that, it is being criticized on number of other grounds also. That Taylor did not properly understand the anatomy of work, and his emphasis on minute division of work and specialization was severely criticized on several grounds which we can understand. What is the ground, various grounds? Firstly, that work get depersonalized and workers become mere cogs in the machines. So you have to understand these kinds of criticism of related to anatomy of work. You can understand how works of machine works and how this man works in a particular setup. Watertight compartment not possible to work like a machine. So that kind of experimentation, which is being highlighted by the Hilton Mayo, Roethlisberger, and others team that, and then accordingly workers and executive become remote as a result of which they lack sense of participation. That kind of monotony was there, and more than everything, workers finds no outlet to exhibit all kinds of ability and potentiality, which you see there in the Harvard experiments. That workers do not have get time to raise their issues and concerns. They need not to discuss. They no need to given time for proper understanding the things, and then there is absenteeism in industries. That to stop this absenteeism, there is a Chicago University has performed a kind of experimentation with Roethlisberger and Hilton Mayo team, which brings a suitable results. So he said that workers have to depersonalize, that should be taken care of. Then not only that, it lead to a kind of automation of workers in the scientific management theory. And physiological and neurological consequences must be seen there. Because you can understand that that kind of implication is there. So for that matter, Taylor's division of work into planning and executive divisions have been also criticized. It is being argued that it is difficult to develop a proper team spirit from that perspective. How will you develop a team spirit? I'm not saying that, but criticizers saying that kind of division between planning and executive provisions under the functional foremanship and this kind of thing will not bring a kind of team spirit. So planning, if totally diverse from the executions, it is difficult to secure the participations of the workers and progress forward. Today, starting from the concepts of starting the politics administration dichotomy, where Woodrow Wilson highlighted this major categorization of politics administration dichotomy, today we understand under the provisions of public policy making dynamics that even though administrators do not have public administration do not have a direct role in public policy making, but indirectly they have important role. So sometimes separations become difficult, but anyway, to understand this thing, this kind of thing, it needs criticism also. So not only that, behavioralists also charge this Taylor's methods of scientific management and highlighted that it due to this his individual freedom and intelligence and responsibility have not bring a kind of result, and it's going to bring a psychological uh, things we have to understand. So behavioralist is important given the important argument for this sacrifice initiative of workers, which bring a kind of things we have to understand that also. And what is more important here to understand that this scientific management theory, despite this criticism, but I feel that it bring a kind of momentum to industrial revolution. Due to industrial revolution, we can understand that industrial revolution has four phases of industrial revolution in the world we can understand. First phases of industrial revolution we have seen with the origin of steam engine, and then second phases with the evolution of diesel engine, and then third kind of industrial revolution is with the computer technological provisions, and for today which we are living in artificial intelligence provisions. So during these industrial revolutions, this what I am willing to say the contributions of Taylor's is very much important, very much important to understand that he not only revolutionized this concept for bring organizational efficiency in a formal setup, industrial output and motivation level should be of the workers is intact here. He has paid adequate understanding of human psychology and sociology and anatomy of work. You can understand that during those there is a significance and importance of Taylor's theory of scientific management. Still, it is relevant. So you can understand that through these applications of growth of science of management, he accounts that he is regarded as a father of study of human being of work also. He was the first person also initiated the quest for better performance. He was also first to apply quantitative techniques to study of industrial management, modern scientific management operations of research and method studies, time studies, system analysis, management and exceptions, etc. All are part of Taylor ability. Why I am saying that this Taylor's formulations of scientific management theory is unquestionable. He incorporated the proper understanding, proper selections and motivations, rewards and punishment thing. So accordingly, he is taking care of human aspects also. So that is more important that you have to see that he applied all these things very scientifically, and it brings good kind of result also, which we have seen there. So you cannot ignore the aspects which is being used for the scientifically. What he has done scientifically is that he developed a kind of hypothesis and then collected the facts and then tested them, then verified them, and then tabulation, and then arrived at the conclusion. So that all these things are very much important, and accordingly it's a Taylor heritage, and its work methods, time study and system analysis, and all are very important, which I'll say this is the crux of scientific management theory. Unless until we incorporate these aspects, productivity will not increase. So it revolutionized the aspects of industrial productions, efficiency, and economy aspects also. So art of cutting metal, which is written in 1906, it revolutionized these provisions again. And also at the same time, it is important to remember that Taylor's whatever work is also related with the human relation aspects in organization. It is not entirely neglected the human relations aspects. He as he said earlier, he recognized the importance of mutual collaborations of workers and management. What is this? But this is nothing but a kind of human relations approach. This is human relation aspects. So you cannot say that he entirely neglected these aspects of. So this is the one of the essential principle of raising industrial efficiency. Besides these kinds of improvements of working conditions, labor was his chief concerns. So one of the main product of terrorism of workers came to be accordingly he should be highly paid and trained better. Despite these things, have to create a kind of congenial atmosphere as well. So that is the thing. And not only that, it is realized that mechanical applications of Taylor principles and methods in industry and government without taking into account other relevant factors would not necessarily result in higher efficiency and productivity. So this is the essence. So essence of this theory is that speed, cost, quality of goods and services were dependable variables, and that they would be maximized by the adjustments of independent variable. For that matter, he has said number of important aspects such as division of labor, method of supervisions, financial incentives, flow of materials, and lastly physical measures and conditions are still true to a great extent. So you cannot say that he is not taking the cognizance of entirely important aspects from the human angle. What is more important to understand that he used such kind of things with application of scientific standardizations of the provisions, and on which in a used in a such a manner that division of work between workers and management with proper supervision, and these kinds of rewards and punishments and high wages. So incentivizations of financial incentives and flow of and use of material in a such a manner that you have to optimal utilization can be taken care of. All these things are important from that angle. So that is the thing. That is the thing. And then accordingly, what I am going to conclude that in brief, Taylor's theory is itself a combinations of theoretical formulations as well as practice, brings a kind of thought and experimentation and doing and teaching all in one person and one life. The scientific management theory has a major influence of growing reforms and economy and movements in public administration. So that is the thing in nutshell. So Tyler, whatever the theory has given, which we say scientific management theory, partly related with the management, but completely it is important aspects of Henry Fayol, which is given in administrative management thinkers, which I will discuss in detail you in the next week things, and then accordingly for that matter, Henry Fayol's contribution is important from an administrative management's angle. So in next class, I'm going to discuss in detail. Hope must have understand that Taylor's contributions of scientific management theory in such a way that it is trying to bring a kind of organizational efficiency and increase the production to such a manner that it bring the good opportunity for workers in high wages terms and high productivity for the management's all angle or organizational angle, and consumers also will get benefited by the less production. So accordingly, it is in nutshell. So that's all. Thank you. Namaste.